friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome in. Robert Imbriali here. So good to have you on board. First question people are going to ask is, yeah, where's the other gray-haired guy? He's not here today. He's traveling today and tomorrow. So I'll be here with a very special co-host, and you know him well. Alan Fountain is with us today, and he'll be bringing some color commentary to some of the crazy stories that are going on out there. And there's a lot. I mean, I've been looking at the news last night into this morning, and hey, it's enough to make your head spin. It really is enough to make your head spin. And you get to the point where you just go, well, what are we supposed to do? Where should we put our focus? And it's a little bit challenging sometimes on a day like this to look at the news and say, okay, what are the things that are really worth talking about? Because there are so many different little pieces, so many different little stories, and which ones should we focus on? Which ones should we ignore? So that's my job. That's what I did today is worked on that. And tomorrow I got a little special treat for you. We're going to do something a little bit different tomorrow. And I think you're going to enjoy tomorrow's show. Now, I'm going to tell you ahead of time, it will be pre-recorded because Lewis is not in town and I have to be somewhere. And I will tell you in that broadcast where I'm going to be. I have to show you. It's not like a just tell thing. So I'll show you in that video. We're going to pre-record it. I'm going to get it done and they'll have it streaming. It'll stream at the same time. It'll be on the same channel tomorrow. So hope you'll tune in for that. Okay, where do we want to begin? Because there's just so much to take a chunk out of today. It's just, nutty. We saw last night what happened. Late in the day yesterday, we started to see stories coming in about.
You had already mentioned Taiwan, and I thought we were going to have a general conversation because we do know Taiwan, like Israel was being saved for last. We know that Taiwan has been a part of the narrative of what's going on in the geopolitical spectrum. But some of the geopolitical information I got along the journey is that Benjamin Fulford kept intimating that Taiwan was being handled with the dragon families quietly and discreetly, and that it might be, handled through negotiations and nothing radical. But from my understanding, and I'm not sure about yours, I'm curious about is this like the Ukraine of that area? Is this what are your thoughts on that? I've had some.
Well, Ukraine is a money laundering operation, right, Alan? So
Yeah,
it's a little bit different in that respect, and you can see that because the stories that have been coming out now, stories breaking left, right, and center of how many of them have purchased these gigantic multi-million-dollar mansions, right? It's coming from a country that's basically poor. And it's like all of a sudden they've got all this money, they're flush with cash. So it's a money laundering operation. It's a little bit different than Taiwan. Taiwan, they want it. And you ask the question, what does Taiwan have? Well, they have all the chip fobs, right? So all the factories that make all the computer chips. So you pick up your iPhone and most of the chips in there were fabricated in Taiwan.
yeah,
And you look at that and you say,
yeah,
well, if you get that, you corner 3/4 of the world's chip production, which means you really corner the entire economy, don't you?
yeah. See, this is what I was trying to discern what the key motivation. If some of this is a wag the dog, or a someone who has the power to
Often that shallow. Normally, when you see them here in California, they're much, much, much deeper. The depth plays a big role in how much activity or motion on the surface you get. So yeah, it
yeah.
is that kind of feeling. It's a little bit like punching the mattress on the bottom. Doesn't move as much as if you punch it on the surface, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You
do
ever punch your
we,
mattress from
this is
underneath? I
all
don't know.
very,
That could be fun.
yeah. Do we know for sure that the images we're getting are all 100% accurate? Is there any wag the dog extremism, or are these pretty reliable images, do you think?
I think they're pretty reliable, and here's why. It's because they're coming from people's dash cams, they're coming from
Got it.
people's phones, they're coming in. It's like that kind of thing. So on X, it's a little bit different because it is citizen journalism, right? So something
Yeah,
happens, you shoot a video, bang, you post it up there. It's up there for the world to see in seconds, right? So from that
got it.
perspective, I see. Well, that doesn't mean you can't have bad stuff on there because I'm sure there is a lot of it that's injected into that system under the guise of. And like I said, there was a thing that said, "Here's a tsunami and here's the big flood." that hit Taiwan, and they had on there Taiwan, and they had the date, and they had everything, but there was only one video of that. And so when I see
Yeah,
that, I go, well, that's probably not real.
yeah. So here we have these events happening in Taiwan, whether it's natural or something manipulated. Um, it's the timing of what's going on geopolitically in the world of realigning the power system. Uh, the timing of this happening is very bizarre. Whether whether it's manipulated or natural, because here we are, we're predicting some events possibly to happen in America that would align with what we think is happening. Xi Jinping and Putin, and some of my earlier research, according to the 17 movement or the Q operation, it alluded that that operation, they were in alignment in order to take out this dark faction that was a menace to humanity. So I feel like that either this could be some type of those dark factions either retaliating with one of their last weapons, or there's something related to all of this, because Xi Jinping, uh, we feel is aligned with the overall operation of what's going to happen in America. And with
Right.
all this tensions brewing with what Biden's doing and the conversations he had with Jinping here recently, it makes you wonder if this is not some type of pre-set up that will have down. You know.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Alan. Okay. I just want to remind everyone to go over to screwbiggov.com if you have not been there in a while. Lisa's been working hard at updating the website and keeping rememberyouroath.com, and Freedom in Action, which has kind of been on the back shelf for a little while, is now coming around and going to be a much more popular website. It's going to be actually the center for a lot of things going forward. So freedominaction.net is where you want to go to find that. Lewis's interviews are there. Also, his swag is there. And if you want to find him on social media, the best way to do that, go to screwbiggov.com and click on the social media icon, the bottom right there, and that's where you'll be able to find him directly. For me, you want to find me, you'll find me at Renegade Media on Telegram. Just look that up. And you can email me, robert@renegademedia.tv. We do post the videos that we use here on the show on there, and also other things that we find. And there is a lot of stuff out there that we find, and we love to share it with you as well. Okay, I'm going to jump on to the next story. It's kind of interesting. This is Alan kind of brought this up, and it's like you always look for the trend, right? So there's a piece here and a piece here and a piece there. And if you look at them individually, they don't really make a big deal. They don't make a big dent. They don't really change anything. But when you start looking at the trend, right, that what the trend line is, like looking at stock prices, right? You look at a stock price for one day, it's not relevant. What's it relevant to? Well, is it higher than yesterday or lower than yesterday? If you don't have yesterday's price, it's just a number. It means nothing. If you have yesterday's price, you know if it's going up or going down in that day. But what's the general trend? So then you go back for 3 months, and you go back 6 months, you go back 3 years, and you say, what's the trend? Is the general trend up or is the trend down? Right? That's how we figure things out. So we're looking at these individual items, if you will, and trying to find that which makes the most sense. So there's some good news on the horizon. All these Trump lawsuits. Oh my gosh, there's been so many, right? Have you noticed? What's the trend on all the lawsuits? What's the trend? The Golden Boomerang, right? And Alan's very familiar with this term. Very clearly, every time they go after Donald Trump, what happens? The boomerang comes back on them, right? So here's the first story in this right here is we have the Honorable Jack Smith, and I use that word facetiously, issues a veiled threat to Judge Cannon over her instructions to the Trump classified docs case. And it's the jury instructions that is a problem here. Last month, Judge Aileen Cannon issued a jury instruction order in Jack Smith classified document case, and the leftist legal analysts went apocalyptic. Jack Smith is completely hysterical because he has virtually no control over Judge Cannon's final jury instructions. Jack Smith responded to Cannon's jury instruction order with a veiled threat. Do things his way or he's going to seek mandamus to the appellate court so they can tell her what to do with the jury instructions. Now, I don't know about you, but Alan, that seems to me like a threat. What do you think?
Well,
Bringing
all of these cases are showcasing the players in their position. We have I know people, and I'm sure you do as well, that are not quite awake yet. And I have people out there that are praying for Trump that I really think that he is behind all of this calamity and buying into the media. So I think these characters that are showing up in all of these trials and these depositions are going to be identified, whether they're not identified immediately in their awareness from the leftist side, they will be in the end. And I think this is the brilliance of the boomerang and the Sun Tzu warfare. Anytime you do something, where you're basically winning the war before the a fire's even shot. And this whole brilliant operation that Trump has done by exposing these people, by having discovery, is just brilliant. But all of these people that are attacking him in the legal field are being exposed brilliantly. And I hope it helps bring down the maritime law illegal legal system. I hope that's what it leads to, and the public reaction in the long run.
Well, whether or not it goes that far, Alan, I don't know. But the reality is all of these people who are now it's turned out you're starting to see more and more all these judges and all these lawyers and all these people pushing forward. They were all paid off handsomely to do what they're doing. No legal standing, no legal basis. Cases that are against Trump would never be brought against anybody else. It's only because he's Trump that they're bringing these cases, and now you're uncovering that they're paid off. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And this is really cool to see the classified documents case. How could you prosecute Trump for having classified documents in his possession? The FBI had access to it. They had the key to the lock. They had the ability to go into that locked room anytime they wanted. There was always Secret Service guarding it, right? And you're saying he held on to documents he didn't have any right to. He was the only one that had the right to classify or declassify a document, and there's no formal process to it. President says classified or declassified, and it's done. There's nothing more to it. And then they don't go after Biden, who was at the time a senator who had classified documents he should never have had. As a senator, you have no business having that. You may be able to look at them, but you can't take them home. And he took them home. They were in his garage. They were in Chinatown. They were all over the place, unprotected, unguarded, out in the open. Hunter Biden had access to it. You can't tell me, if you're not going to prosecute that you can prosecute Trump for what he did. You can't tell me that.
Yeah. Well, this is a pattern. It's a pattern of Trump brilliantly knowing almost like years ahead of what is coming. He knows their old routines and their way of doing business, and he's basically outgaining them, 5D chessing them at every move. And it's brilliant in that it is allowed to showcase to the public, because these people are just it's letting people realize just how the blackmail bribery system was working in America, and destabilizing everything.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying looking at it, Alan. I just want to apologize to people. They're looking at your videos a little bit pixelated. Alan's in a place where the internet's not that great today, so he's a little bit blurry. But that's okay. We can hear him clearly, and I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You can't see the pimples, you can't see anything, so he looks a lot younger. At the end of the day, it's a win.
I actually happen to look good today.
You look good, exactly.
It's pixelated. And this was kind of impromptu, so thank everybody for their patience and the setup and my preparation. Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So let's go back to this view here, and I'm going to bring up the next slide. This is a fun one. This is Jesse Waters. He went and revealed on his show that the multi-million-dollar perks going to Judge Merchan's family for taking Trump to court in bogus hush money case. This is the Stormy Daniels case. And you know what the judge did? Told him, he gagged Trump and he said, you can't talk about this case. You can't talk about me. You can't talk about my family. You can't talk about anyone, right? And now we know why. So Jesse Waters, Judge Juan Merchan, who's presiding over Trump's so-called hush money case in New York, slapped an even bigger gag order on the former president last night. Trump is banned from talking about the judge's family. Why would Trump want to talk about the judge's family? That's a good question, my friend. Why? Because the judge's family is getting rich off Trump's trials that he's presiding over. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Alan, what do you think about this?
Well, I was having some distraction in the background during that process, so I didn't fully hear it, and I'm not prepared to comment. And then I just know it's all of these cases are unnecessary, and also just it's part of the showcasing of the movie. But I apologize for the distractions. There's people coming and going in my area.
Yeah. So Trump was issued another gag order, and basically the judge said, you can't talk about my family. And the reason you can't talk about the family, because Trump would have no reason to talk about anybody's family unless they're somehow involved. And it turns out that the daughter is a Democrat strategist, and they're being paid off by Adam Schiff. And you can't make this story up.
All of this is
make
coming
this
out.
stuff up. Huh?
Yeah, I'm glad that it's all coming out, because during Trump's testimony I was listening to one of his testimonies last night where he pleaded, basically he didn't plead the fifth, he just said didn't have any comments. These people are so desperate, and it's so obvious, and I'm hoping that it can break some of the cognitive dissonance of the people that are watching. But I think the kinetic energy of the left to take him down is so strong that they're blinded by anything they're seeing with it's going to take the linear long range of all of these sequential numbers of Trump's wins of every one of these things, like the Teflon president, because he's innocent. And I think it's going to take a culmination for them to see the end result. I don't think a lot of them are breaking their cognitive dissonance now, but these people are really after him. And I like the way that he is able to showcase the low-hanging fruit of family and friends, associates, by the answering questions and being in these situations.
Yeah, and he's not backing down too, which was really good to see, right?
Which I admire, because he's very. I respect that.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind, though. I mean, we have this idea that Trump is going to fix everything, and that can't happen. It can't be on one person's back, right? So it's all of us as well who have to step up and do our part. And that was the impetus for me starting to talk about news items and talking about what's going on, because I wasn't seeing it in regular media. So I started talking about it on my own podcast back then, and 4 years ago now. My gosh, time has just flown. And that's why we do this every day, is really to help wake people up to what's really happening and to kind of let them see the trend line. It's like, guys, it looks bad some days. But if you look at the overall trend, we're starting to win, and we're starting to win in big ways. And there's going to come a tipping point. And that tipping point is going to be that moment when we start winning everything. And you're going to be like, whoa, what's going on? It's like, you won't even be able to keep up with it. There'll be so many wins. And we're getting there. We're getting closer. There's going to be some bumps. Yeah.
I'm hoping that this eclipse phase that we're in April, should be the shift.
Yeah.
That after that,
everyone's hoping for it. Lewis and I were on a call with Bruce the other day, and Lewis asked, he said, what do you think is going to happen after April 8th? And I said the 9th.
I agree. It's going to be like a Y2K. Everybody's got all of this built up anxiety, fear, confusion, uncertainty. It'll be like Y2K. The 9th will happen. I agree with you. And I think
exactly. I don't think there's anything more to worry about. Yeah, there's just it's just one of those things. It's like, it's being hyped up, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it, because we've got a couple of little pieces about that in the news today that are worth talking about. So let's go back to the shot here where we can get the next story up. Okay, you got to look at this graph. I'm going to put this graph up for you. You got to look at this graph. This is how many days are left in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. You see that number on the bottom left, on the bottom right, I should say. What's that number? Is that a 17? No, it can't be a 17. Why is it a 17? All right, so this is interesting. Let me do the story here, and I'll bring you up, Alan. We'll talk about it. Um, so we know that gas prices spiked when Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline, and he started removing or revoking drilling leases to a lot of the oil companies right here in the United States. So the fracking all stopped, and Trump had warned us. He said the moment Biden gets in power, that's the end of the fracking. That's gone. I'm not really a big fan of the fracking, but I understand it's one way of getting the oil out. I get it. There are probably cleaner ways of doing that. We just need the technology and the innovation to do it. So, okay, that aside, when all those things stopped, gas prices spiked. And what do you think? He emptied the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Now, this is in the salt mines, I believe, in Utah, and they're actually they aren't containers like you and I would consider like, oh, a big tank. They're just drilled out sections of cave and they just put all the oil in there. And we had a lot of strategic reserve, and the reason that we have it is in wartime when we can't extract our own oil or import it from other countries because we're in conflict, we'd be able to keep the machinery running here in this country. We'd be able to keep the tanks going and the planes flying and that kind of thing. Well, Biden didn't like that, so he started to sell it all. Biden's India and China at a time when we were here seeing soaring gas prices. And he also sold it back to the oil companies who he bought it from. And they refined it and they put it into the system. And guess what that helped do? It helped keep the gas prices lower, not low, but lower than they would have been. They would have been over $10 a gallon here in California had he not done that. Where did he get into that trouble? He got into the trouble by canceling the leases and all the rest of it that he did. So the Biden administration won't move forward with its latest plans to buy oil for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve amid rising prices. So his own stupid strategy now caught up with him. Couldn't refill it even if he wanted to because the prices are too high. The Energy Department said it was keeping the taxpayers' interests at the forefront. Oh, I'm sure. In its decision not to purchase as many as 3 million barrels of oil for a Strategic Petroleum Reserve site in Louisiana. This is a different one. The plan for the barrels to be delivered in August and September has been announced in mid-March and now has been canceled. Well, that's kind of fascinating that they did that. What do you think about that, Alan?
Well, I'm not really I've not really been familiar with this part of the economy because usually I would have had more time to do some research. So, but what I will comment on is you're pointing out about the 17. We know that anytime that's been a repetitive pattern, we can almost draw confidence that it's something to do with the white hat strategy, whether it's reflecting on Biden, because we know Trump is out there touting about what happened under the Trump economy. We wouldn't be at war. We wouldn't not going to go into this war. We wouldn't be having these prices and escalation. So when I just coming from my past history and observation, without having the full details of what you were discussing, that's what I can just comment on about this is that I feel like that it's part of our overall big picture of revealing to the public and also letting the world know that Trump history with the economy and these things has a better reputation for us in the long run.
Yeah, it is. It is a little stunning to me. Well, the 17 is kind of a clue, right? Because if you look
Yeah,
at it on the
I think.
surface, you go, "Wow, we have 17 days left of supply in our strategic petroleum reserves, and we're on the probably not the
This
best
is,
timing."
I think, yeah, to me, anytime that I see 17 represented in something that looks dire or
Dire.
that could be frightening, I think that's a nod to the people that are awake and that have been a part of Trump's operation and his making America great again is all about letting them know that this is part of the overall benevolent operation. So that's what I take away from it. And because there's been a pattern, there was a good series I just saw on Journey to Truth, where they kind of went back and reviewed the key aspects of the original of the Q operation, and they talked about how 17 was constantly reappearing when Trump would do some of the athletic events, and they would normally give a jersey that had its uh, number 45 or 42, whatever the president was, and all of his jerseys were 17. So this was kind
Wow.
of these nods to us. So I take that as don't buy into uh, the true risk of what they're saying as part of the showcasing of the movie. Is what I see.
I'm seeing in the chat room, Alan, people are asking for the flying cars now. It's time to bring on the flying cars. Okay, how do we power them? That's the only question I have because
We
battery
have that.
technology today, not so
We,
good,
we,
you know?
well, you do. I did a podcast a year ago, and also the QAnon shaman from the Navy, the super soldier. He does in his video, which I have on my Telegram. He talks about we have this technology. We just have to have it released. It's the anti gravity technology. We have the power to make it happen. Something as small as I would say, a battery could literally power an anti-gravity craft, which would be cars, etc. We have the technology. The importance is being able to get these gatekeepers that are blocking it out of the way. So we can get into that. We can That can be a part of our future. It's
Yeah.
there. Technology.
Well, hopefully we're getting closer to that because I'd like to see that technology. I know there are batteries out there that you charge once and you can use them for a year, and they just keep regenerating
Yeah.
and regenerating and regenerating. So, we have it, and our cell phones barely last a day. We're suffering with this horrible battery technology, lithium ion that we have, and there's other stuff out there that's much better.
Well, the power source that they would use in some type of anti-gravity craft, whether it's automobiles, was the similar power that they used during the Philadelphia experiment back in the
Hmm.
40s when the Navy did this experiment with the Philadelphia experiment, where they actually used it for time travel. So this is something that has been classified, but this stuff is coming out into our consciousness now. I don't know how long it'll take before it can actually come into our reality, but we have these different power sources. There's three components that would go into making that be able to happen, and we have them. So it's getting the deep state out of the hoarding field, and getting ahead. Whether or not they'll allow us to advance that way, we'll see. But it's there. There's documentation on it.
Well, I think you're right. It's like we've got to remove the gatekeepers, and I think that's what this battle really is about. If you read Fulford as well, and you understand, that's the bigger war, if you will. We have the visible war, the war we could see on our level, and then there's the one above that,
Yeah.
the people actually moving the chess pieces around and causing the discord. And it's like those guys got to go, and because they have all this technology for themselves and they can use it, but they don't release it to us because we would have power, and they don't want us to have power.
What?
It's the reason why they keep going. You know.
Yep. The elite, they have a system where they don't want to lose their cash cow and other energy income sources and other fields. There's probably less that actually hold the patents for these super technologies that we have. It's the masses out there that have the shell game on all the other
Right.
income. So there's kind of like a turf war between all of them, trying to prevent what's happening. So that they don't lose their wealth or
Yep.
their place in this system that has been rigged for so long.
Time to talk
But
a little bit more about this craziness that we have here called the eclipse. And there's a statewide emergency being declared now in Indiana ahead of the solar eclipse. But that's not the only place that there's a state of emergency. Kentucky declared a state of emergency. West Virginia declared a state of emergency. Ontario, Canada declared a state of emergency. Arkansas, state of emergency. Killeen, Texas, state of emergency. Ohio, state of emergency. Missouri County declared state of emergency. Charleston County is gearing up to declare a state of emergency. Jackson County and Kansas City declared a state of emergency. People have never seen this many cities declare an emergency within 24 hours. We're in uncharted waters right now. There's so much information coming in from every direction. Nobody really knows what we're looking at. What do you think's going on here, Alan?
yeah, this is there's definitely something about to happen. I don't know. We've always alluded to that there would be the remaining arrests of the deep state. So whether or not this is going to be that time where that happens and we have disclosure, you always say, is this a distraction? Is something else happening over on the other side? Is this the shiny bauble where they're talking about these emergencies? And these people are really going to be out there for another purpose unrelated to the eclipse, because there's so many narratives going around with the eclipse, whether in the esoteric field, whether or not we're having the Anunnaki come back, to retrieve the gold. There's all these different narratives going on, the esoteric and the 3D geopolitical. So we're not probably really going to know until after it happens. The thing is to stay positive and stay in your reality and keep your vibration high and stay grounded, because whatever's going is completely out of our control. The only control we have is how we react to it. But I do think something is about to happen this month because of all of this kinetic chatter with the eclipse. And I don't know if they know something that will really affect the geopolitical, I mean, not geopolitical, but the geography of, when I say geography, something would happen cosmically or energetically to the Earth during this event, with the solar flares or whatever. But I think it's a shiny bauble, to be honest with you, that something else is going off on the side. It's part of this overstimulation right now. We're overstimulated in the media right now. There's so many narratives coming out with the bridge, with what's going on in Taiwan now, going on with China, Russia. It's an overstimulation, and I think you just need to mind your emotions and your take care of what's in, like Lewis says, take care of your neighborhood, what's immediately around you, and brace for impact.
It's Saul
good
Alinsky,
impact.
right? So never let an event
Yeah.
or crisis go to waste. And I think that's what's going on here, is that you've got a lot of
Yeah.
people who are looking at this and going, okay, is something going to happen? There's so much in the news. There's a lot of chatter. There are a lot of metaphysical. There's a lot of, yeah, everyone's saying, not that this is going to be the end all of everything, but this could be the catalyst, that spark that sets us off in a new direction. I was telling that to Phoebe this morning.
Well,
I said, we have this idea that this is going to end in a month. Guys, it's been 4 years,
no.
right? And we're still
Yep.
fighting it. I mean,
It's
we're
been
at the
4
end, almost at
years.
the world. Did that last for 4 years? We never thought it would go 6 weeks. So this is
No,
going to be a long time
exactly.
coming.
Yeah, a long time coming. But during that, the Biden administration to me has always been a sting operation to have as much time to safely transition the American citizens and humanity to the next phase with the minimal collateral damage. So the longer
Right.
you can have people to surrender, or is a better thing. So I think that there's positive things happening in this extended. I'd much rather this play out at this level and us have the maximum safety in the long run. So if we're trusting in Trump and we're trusting in these what a gray hat white hat operation, I think we just have to realize that that's what it is. But there's so much going on in the background. This overstimulation. The religious thing is very big. There's so many narratives going on with exposing the complexities of religion. And I think that we are going back to an ancient civilization, truth and reality, from a disclosure to kind of start at the beginning and let's restart our history and know what we know and work our way back. Because I see a lot of that coming out in a lot of the podcasts that I listen to. There's the ancient history. There's the what's going on in the geopolitical with the Rothschild, the deep state, the cabal, what's linked to Israel, what's linked to Hamas. So we're in this like throwing the spaghetti against the wall right now. And so I think they're just getting it all out there, and we're going to have to like put the puzzle back together.
Well, I think that's intentional, right? So it's an information war, and we talk about this concept of misinformation. Well, it's on both sides, and it has to
Yeah,
be, because you can't let the other guy know what you're doing, and you got all this
exactly.
stuff, and we're in the middle, kind of going, okay, I see that, I see that, I see that. How does that connect to this? And that doesn't. Okay, there's something missing. How does that connect over here? And we're trying to piece it all together, and we've got a very ugly looking puzzle right now where things just don't sort of fit, and it is
Yep.
very unstabilizing for people? I know there's a lot of people that are going
Yeah,
through
it
and
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
they have to
it
tune it
is, and
out
I think
because
that's what
it's
the
too much
importance
for
of.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the importance of the self mastery. There's a function that when Trump was playing golf and he was able to get a hole in one, there's something called executive function. Where you can actually master your mental skills. I think that it would be important right now to focus on things that are your specialty as well.
Right.
These self personal improvement. With the mind and the ability to be optimistic and positive. I think that's where it's pushed me. We've had some, whether it's economics, whether it's fear of something happening in your area, your land. All of these things are coming to fruition. Whether your religion is under attack, it's bringing everybody to the edge. And so when you go to the edge, it's like a tether gets pulled. It drives you to renew and rebuild from the ground up. So I think this is kind of what we're doing. We're going to have to start over. When I've had some very dark experiences in my life, that's when it brings me closer to God and brings me closer to knowing what is real and what is important. And I can see that commonality playing out in our consciousness, where we're going to realize, oh, this division is not important. We were all about to experience something dark, and now let's all come together. So I'm hoping that that's what really plays out, and that it takes people to work on themselves and realize that love and that part of our life is important, and the unity, as Lewis says.
It's certainly,
I'm
if it's
hoping.
nothing else, it's a wake up call. People are getting, they're getting to see what's going on. They go, "Whoa, I don't know about this here. This is kind of interesting." All right, let's take a quick look at this guy here for a moment and tell you a little quick story about him. Oh my, he's been out there and about and catching gophers left, right, and center. He's averaging two a day, some days three, one day four, which is just crazy for an almost 15-year-old cat. That's kind of amazing. Um, so what did we do with him? He was a couple of months back, maybe earlier this year, I think it was January or so. He was not doing well. He was flopping around, wasn't really feeling well, stopped eating. He wouldn't get up off the floor. He would just lie there. He wouldn't respond. We thought, okay, 13, 14, whatever he is, we thought it's probably the end for him. And we were thinking about, okay, we need to put him down. And then Lewis said, "Hey, we've got pets 24/7. Why don't you try putting them on this food? What do you got to lose?" And I said, "Okay, sure." So I gave it a try. I joined up and I gave it a try. And it's food he started to eat. And he started to feel better. Like literally within days, he was back to his old self. And Israel says we're completely ready to go to war with Iran, according to the Israeli ambassador to Russia. Well, you would imagine that that would be true because they went in and blew up the Iranian embassy in Syria. You feeling it yet? What's going on here?
Yeah, this is this morning on CBS. There was Senator John Fetterman, and he basically went on there and he was talking about this narrative, and it's just so humiliating to hear them justify the carnage, for their reasons. So we
Right.
we see that this is playing out. What is really going on in the 17 movement? They're saving Israel for last. We're kind of letting the public. I think a lot of this is wag the dog. Although there's some real stuff going on, and not being a presence on the ground, it's hard to really know what is accurate. But I listen to
Right.
a lot of different people about their narratives, whether like what their faith is, what their perspective is. This is it's getting so out of hand, but it's a big reveal, you know.
If they're saving Israel for last, are we getting toward the end? Is that what we're kind of reading into this a little bit?
Well, it feels that way to me. We know our deadline. If Israel is the major um, calm before we move into the next phase. We know that, if we're having to deal with this final geopolitical narrative, I think that's why, whatever's going to come up after this April deep states sacrificial period, Whatever plays out, whether it's a distraction for them so we can go in and make the final arrest, whatever they're going to do, if there needs to be anything where they have to close down areas in order to do some certain elements that they were unable to do, in public. Trump came out at one time and said, we have the ability to move 144,000 people, hundreds of thousands of people within a few hours. This to me was a calm that at some point they would need to move a couple of 100,000 people within a 24-hour period or so. And so this is what plays into my thinking that something is coming where something will happen militarily or something. There's just too much kinetic energy right now. So this is my hope that this is, we're waiting. Israel is for last. It's coming out on the show screen. We're letting to not be anti-Semitic. I had mentioned in a podcast that it's better for someone like Roseanne to try to come out and explain this narrative of the Babylonian system so that we're not attacked by not being, if you're not of that Jewish faith or that heritage, it's hard. We see what's going on with Candace Owens and with Ben Shapiro. And then we have Roseanne come in. All these people were close and talking at once. And then Rabbi Shmuley. All these things is like a train wreck. They've all just come unglued and hit. So it's coming to a head.
There's a huge amount of protests happening within Israel to get rid of Netanyahu, right? So the people of Israel don't want what's going on. They're not happy with it, and they want him gone.
Yeah.
So it's similar to what we have here. We just don't have the protests here.
Yeah, with Biden, it's kind of like they are rising up, and that's kind of what it has to be. We have to have a kind of a revolution. I mean, a revolt from within, to remove these characters. And the more that Biden supports it, it's another negative mark on his. When he's supporting this war, so it's all playing out. You almost need one of those murder boards with a line that goes from this to that so that everybody can see where everything's linking up to, because the news cycle changes every day. So I sometimes try to keep a murder board, to make it a little easier to see how people are linked and, but it's a lot of kinetic energy right now.
Alan, and there's the links we don't see, right? So there's two levels of it too, and then a lot of this is coming to light. And like you say, I think you're right. I think everyone is sort of on board with this. That we're going to go through a rougher period where things are going to look really, really dire and really, really challenging, and then we'll start to see the smoke clear on the other side. And I'm thinking that'll be through the summer. And Trump made interesting comment yesterday. He said, I'll either be back on November 5th, or he said even before November 5th. That's a calm, right?
Wow. I missed that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Interesting. We don't know.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. Well, we'll see. Yeah. There's got to be a trigger point that's going to push that forward. I mean, there's got to be something that's going to, make this thing pop and go in the other direction. And we're starting to build that. If we look at this idea called momentum, right? We're building momentum. We were caught off guard in 2020. Honestly, we thought we had this. We had Trump rallies everywhere. He was attracting 40, 50,000 people to his rallies. There's no way this guy's going to lose. And we should have maybe looked at the red flag that Biden wasn't even campaigning, because they knew that the fix was in. He didn't have to. Yeah. And we didn't see it that way. But now in hindsight, we do. So it took us all this time to catch up, but I think we're catching up now. Now we're smarter, and we're going to get to that point where, this next election, if it goes, I'm still feeling it's not going to go. And, hearing Donald Trump say November 5th or before tells me there's not going to be an election.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what it definitely sounds like. It's also like with all the polls that are out there, they're saying that Biden and Trump is neck and neck. And of course, like you just said, there was no one at his rallies. It just doesn't make sense.
Manipulation, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey. Okay. And I know that things are happening in the military. Like, one of the big things right now is that recruiting numbers are way down. So this is an interesting story. I saw this a couple of weeks ago. I didn't pay much attention to it, but it's back again. U.S. War Department. I didn't know we had a War Department, but I guess why not? They had started recalling retired veterans and is ordering them to report for active duty, citing Executive Order 13223 from the Bush era executive order. Well, this is interesting now, right? What in the world is happening here? I don't know that you could call back the retired veterans. How in the world do you do that?
That's very interesting. It makes you wonder if they're hitting each little segment of statistics to alert them, to get them talking about what's going on in the world. So if you're retired, it seems like everybody has something that is going to affect them by what's going on in the world right now. So who knows if this is something that is really needed or if it's something to start a dialogue, to get that segment of people communicating at that age level, and in that area. That's what comes to my mind.
Well, we have a lot of veterans in our audience. Guys, if any of you have gotten these letters, if you've been asked to be reactivated, please let us know about it. We'd love to bring you on the show and have a little conversation about this, because this is unprecedented. I've never seen this. Now, I don't know what this Executive Order 13223 is from the Bush era, but that was probably after 9/11, is what I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not up on that executive order.
Okay.
But
Well, we'll
it
go
would
find
definitely
out, because I
alarm,
think that's important. Yeah.
it would
And if we have
alarm
any
family
veterans in
members of,
your audience that have been called up, please let us know.
yeah, it would
Ah, the world
definitely
we live
alarm
in, is
family.
changing all the time. All right. Rumble's Locals has been shut down in Brazil because Rumble refused to turn off some creators' accounts that Brazil wasn't happy with. So Rumble's standing in the breach again. Now, I love to hear this. I don't know about you, but that's our platform, right? That's what we're on. That's our primary stream platform is Rumble. So hearing them
Yeah,
defending, freedom of speech is really great. Interesting company. I
yeah,
mean, it was started in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And who thought a Canadian company would be all over freedom of speech? Well, as soon as COVID hit, there was Odyssey. There was a bunch of other ones. I tried them all, honestly. And Rumble was the only one that made sense. It was the closest aligned to what YouTube was. So they started
yeah.
to grow really quickly, and they moved the company headquarters from Canada to Florida. So they're now based in Florida. And
Nice.
it's really, really good to see that they're standing for freedom of speech. And they shut down their locals, which costs them money because they take a cut of all the money that people pay to subscribe to locals. Locals is a subscription service on Rumble that you can do, and you can be a part of the locals group. And ostensibly, the creators will give you content that's not available to the general public. Usually $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever.
Yeah.
And Rumble gets a cut of that. So Rumble is cutting off an income stream to protect freedom of speech. How do you feel about that?
Oh, that's fantastic. And what country was this that you said
Brazil,
that it happened? Brazil.
Brazil.
Wow, that's fantastic to see that that not only in our country, but that they're protecting that that freedom of speech,
Yeah,
even in other areas to do that. Because when you're willing to go without the resources, go without the money, that's a statement you're leaning towards the right side of history. So that's it's a great. I think that's admirable. You know, we're going to have to go through some of these hard times in order to get to the right part of life.
yeah.
We're all making sacrifices to get there.
Yeah, and we all have to stand that where we can, we have to stand in our power. I don't run Rumble, otherwise I'd be standing in that position. But we have to stand where we have power. And a lot of
Yeah,
people will try to stand where they don't have any power, and they realize, well, I can't do anything. Well, you can't. But every one of us has power where we have power in our own little circle. We have power, right?
yeah,
Power over your kids, power over
absolutely.
your neighbors, not over them necessarily, but certainly power with them. And you can have these conversations. And it's been fascinating for me over the past month and a half, how many people are so far left who I can talk to. And now they're coming, I kid you not, they're coming to me and they're asking me, Rob, catch me up. What's going on? Literally, this is what they're saying. And I don't go, I told you so. You should have been listening to me 4 years ago, blah, blah, blah. I don't go into that. I just do my best to catch them up because there's so much to catch up on. And they're not going to buy it all because it's way too much. So I give them little pieces and they come back and they ask more
Yeah.
questions. I give them a little bit more. And there's like 4 or 5 people in my inner circle now that are in that group. And it's sort of fascinating to see the changes happening.
Yeah, I'm noticing the same, Robert, where people that might have been a little more guarded and defensive in the past, they're having conversations with me. I'm just reaching out with a loving perspective and just having them without even talking politics. To me, this is their way of for their pride. Just letting that's to me, I know that they are warming up to what's going on over here a little bit without having to admit it. Just by
Yep.
engaging in a conversation,
Yep.
and which they would not have in the past. It was
Yeah, and
very
you don't want to
push.
make them feel like they're wrong, like they made a mistake, because that doesn't help anything, right? And that's the whole idea.
Yeah,
And politics is very divisive. And I know people who don't talk to me anymore because they don't like my politics or whatever. Like I don't really
yeah,
care what your politics are. I can still be friends with you. It does not make a bit of difference to me how far
absolutely.
left you are. And I have friends that are NPR listeners, right? Doesn't make any difference to me. We can have those conversations
Yeah,
if you want, and if you don't want to, we can talk about the weather. It's fine. You know?
yeah. And that's a big move, just in the needle, just to be able to have people having conversations and
Yeah.
not even bringing up politics.
Yep.
That's we need to get back together. We're
We really
stronger
do.
together.
We've drifted too far apart. There's no question about that. Hey, there's news that X.com, formerly Twitter, is now experiencing the highest number of traffic numbers that they've ever had in the history of the company. Gee, I wonder why
Wow.
that is. Let's see. You open a platform up and you say, "You guys, you can have your free speech. Talk about anything you want." Traffic goes through the roof. You know who's not seeing that? Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, their traffic numbers are dropping as people are
Yep.
dropping those censored platforms. No point to them.
Yep.
Facebook is
And
very vanilla now. I don't enjoy it anymore. People are afraid to say anything, and it's like I don't really care what you had for breakfast. I don't care about. So there's really not much of a point anymore to be on Facebook that often. So I spend the most of my time, and I don't know where you, Alan. I don't know where you spend your time on social, but my time now is on X. I go there first, where before it was, I never went on it. I mean, it could have been
yeah,
months
that's what I've started.
between visits.
I agree. People are dropping Facebook. I've had friends contact me and say, if you want to stay in touch with me, here's my email. I'm about to get off Facebook. So I
Yep.
do feel like that's becoming a trend with possibly people on our side. Even though I do like the format and the ease of operating it, and it could be just because it was one of our original ones and I learned that system. But I like X better because it's like you said, we're getting instant information from citizen journalists across the world in real time. And for
Yep.
that reason, I think that's beneficial, you know, for that reason.
Oh, it's why they tried to control it. It's why they took it over when Jack Dorsey had it. It's why the government was in their back pocket with it because they knew how powerful it was,
Yeah,
and they could sway elections and they could sway public opinion. They could do a
sure.
lot with it. So yeah, and now that all those doors are closed, thank you, Elon. They're after Elon left, right, and center. They're trying to shut him down
Yeah,
in any way they possibly can. You know?
trying to
Yeah.
counsel him. Yeah. But
Californians, that's us, me, not you, me, are going to pay up to $200 more a year for our favorite Starbucks habit if we buy it daily. Why is that? Why do
you're
you think
kidding.
Starbucks prices just jumped April 1st? Not an April Fool's joke, by the way,
Wow. Is
because
it's I
the state
want
of California mandated a $20
we
minimum wage for fast food workers that took effect
that's
on
it.
Monday.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to help the
Yeah, I read
companies or
about
that's
that.
going to hurt them?
Well, I think that people it probably hurt them in the short run, but there's people that have the elite or the people that have the money that are well, they'll go, But also, we're going to see. This is going to be an interesting test. I'm happy that they're able to pay a wage to their employees, but how it's going to play out, in the longer time is going to tell. We'll see. I'm a guilty of going and out of habit sometimes to Starbucks because there's a certain something I like. It's according to what people are going to decide their priorities are, but it's definitely going to be a test. We'll see what happens what happens in California,
There's a
with
lot of
the
debate on this idea of paying somebody in the fast food industry $20 an hour when there's so many white collar people who don't make that, right? And
exactly.
and there's something there. It's like when you're a business owner, you look at it from that perspective and say, what's the value of that person, providing that service? And at $20 an hour, the only way they can survive. Remember, a company only can survive because there's a difference between what they pay, what it costs them to make that cup of coffee, and what they can sell it for. That margin is what they live off of. And you think, well, that margin, in the eyes of the government, is too big. And they say we're going to chop into that margin, but that's not what happens. What happens is the company needs, this is the margin they need, and if you raise the expenses, they have to raise the price, and you get to a point where it's too expensive. And you're right, the wealthier people not going to notice 50 cents, a dollar more. Who cares, right? But you got to recognize that is not the entirety of their market. So they're going to cut off the
It's
low end of
also
the
a,
market, right? And then they're going to see their sales suffer. And it's not just Starbucks; it's anybody in the fast food industry who has 60 or more locations. That's how the law is written out. Some chains like Starbucks raise their prices to cover increased labor costs, which represents about a 15% increase in pricing overnight. That's a heck of a jump. So these
what I
workers
think
went from $15 an hour to $20 an hour overnight.
what I think about is whoever initiated these laws and policies is kind of like a loyalty branding for these young people to identify with their party. So it's kind of like
They're buying
you
votes.
got
You
these
got it,
young
Alan. That's
workers.
exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
Yep.
It's about the
Yep.
vote, just like the bringing in the people from the border. This is branding a new generation of loyalty to the people behind this. It'll make a neurolinguistic imprint, and I think it's kind of along that same lines. To be honest with you,
It is. And the
it's
debate
one
goes back
factor.
and forth about it. And it's like, oh, the workers should get paid more. Well, the truth of the matter is these are supposed to be starter jobs. They're not supposed to be careers. And, you go to Starbucks when you're going through college, you work there, and then, you learn something,
Exactly.
learn some more skills, and you become more valuable, and you go up the ladder that way. It's kind of the way it's supposed to work. But if you're
Yeah.
paying them this amount of money, they now won't leave because where else are they going to go and make that kind of money? There's nowhere else they can go. Right.
Yeah. The business model is off.
Yeah,
The
it's
logic.
a little backwards the way they've got it set up right now. It's a little sad to see it that way. All right, one more little promo I want to do here before we wrap up for the day. It's always fun to do these with you. One more thing, SBG Ascent is important, and I'm going to show you an extract, and you can get it there by going to sbgascent.com. And they have a lot of products. They have more than 40 different products. Browse through the catalog. You find something you like, even coffee. They've got coffee too. The coffee is amazing. It's so different than average coffee. So I have it. I love it. And you'll find a lot of the products there that, there's got to be something there that's going to tickle your fancy too. So go have a look, sbgascent.com, and you can find out more about what's going on there with those products. Really cool to see what Lance is doing. And Lance, by the way, will be on an upcoming show. We're going to bring him back because people have a lot of questions about health and nutrition. He's the guy to ask. So we're going to bring him back on the show and have that conversation with him. Alan, you did awesome today. Thank you for being my co-host.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and I apologize for some of the technical difficulties and the spontaneity about which I came. I wish I'd been a little more prepared, but thank you for the invitation.
Folks, what you didn't know is Alan was a little bit nervous about doing this today, and I did not see any sign of that at all in him. Did you? I didn't see any that he was nervous. I think he did a great job.
I was in the ER for my blood pressure. I'm having blood pressure issues, so so I was trying to have a difficulty seeing. So that was the reason why I wanted to be able to. I couldn't do the research that I normally would because I couldn't see.
Well, I'm glad
So,
you're
but thank
feeling
you.
a little better, and we wish you
Yeah,
wish you well, Alan. Thank you so much for
thank
being
you.
here, my friend.
Thank you
Yeah,
for the
we appreciate
invitation. I
you.
love being here. Thank you.
Well, you'll be back. You know that, right?
Well, thank you very much. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Alan. All right. A couple more little things before we go. We've got one last video. I know you guys like these videos. This one made me laugh, so I want to share this with you.
I almost never